The sports history in Chicago runs deep. The Bulls, the Bears, the Cubs, the Blackhawks. How about we throw racing into the mix? Quickly becoming a classic, the street course is going to be quite the challenge as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. The Windy City's newest claim to fame was actually developed by iRacing before any race car ever hits the streets. So let's get a closer look at this impressive triumph of technology. Welcome to the Chicago Street Circuit. NASCAR and iRacing teamed up to create a virtual street course made from real-world scan data of the Midwest's most famous city avenues. Sat right in the middle of skyscrapers, monuments, museums, and Lake Michigan, it's perhaps one of the most picturesque tracks on the service. It clocks in at a little over 2 miles in length, which is about 3.5 kilometers, and includes 12 turns dispersed around it. The shape of the track might look simple, but tackling it is anything but. The turn from Lakeshore onto Roosevelt will be a fast and narrow single-file affair that tightens up on the exit. And the arc around Congress Plaza Drive forces drivers to feather the throttle while hugging the inside wall as tightly as they can. Expect most passes to be attempted on the turn into Balbo at either the first corner or turn 6. However, both have zero runoff, which means outbraking yourself will likely end your day prematurely. In general, the bumpy nature of the circuit and the closeness of the punishing walls means that survival is probably going to be the name of the game for most drivers. In the world of sim racing, we have unique opportunities to make our dreams into reality. And iRacing and NASCAR have done just that. So, as you can see, it might look a little bit simple from above, but when you're down on the track itself, Joey, it's anything but.
Absolutely, especially with those big K-walls and guardrails everywhere. It's tough to see those apexes, but we are here at the Chicago Street Circuit. 12 turns, 2.14 miles in length, and you see a lot of 90-degree turns throughout this place. That is exactly what makes up a street circuit. I think a couple big passing opportunities. Turn 1, always a great opportunity after the start-finish line, but also that turn 4-5 complex. That's the area furthest left on the track map. It's kind of tricky going into it with the arcing brake zone, so gonna have to be careful about that pedal pressure. And then of course through that section 8, 9, 10 where that big arcing hump is around there to finally close out the lap here at turns 11 and 12, the final turn. But one thing with the 49s and concrete walls, do not touch a wall with those tires. You will pick up steering damage. And then of course don't go running into your competitors either.
And don't go chasing waterfalls while you're at it. But right now, the only water we're going to see is, of course, the famous fountain. In the meantime, we've got the championship to worry about, and Andres Valenteus kind of ran away with that last time, which wasn't too great of a surprise. He is actually not here today, so that at least gives somebody else a chance to try and win. Seb Tixia going to try and do that as he came home with a second ahead of Nikola Kaki. Togo Hisada dropping down to 4th, handing a position back right at the end of the race. Both he and Nieva had a bit of a coming together at one point. Zamaloa with a good run initially, trying to get back from a mistake at the start, eventually getting up to the 8th position. Was a fun run last time. We'll see how that swaps around after today. In the meantime, let's take a look at the F2 standings.
Same driver, or I should say same car, different drivers out here. Mats Linden currently leading the way. Jonathan Jordan in 2nd place. Andres Bruno 3rd. Thomas Tuba in 4th. Thomas Willershausen in 5th place. Emilio Pradera, Christian Schmidt, David Muse, Eki Anderson, and Tobias Harnvey rounding out the top 10 over here in F2.
And we have a Nations Cup that we run in this series, and Lithuania, because of Valenteus, is leading, Singapore in second, and then Italy sitting in the third position. Expect Japan and Spain to start jumping forward. They've really been the two that have been kind of dominating lately. Singapore typically up there with a couple drivers contributing, including Tixier as one of the big ones on that one. The United States and the UK actually separated for once. Usually they are locked in a fierce battle. The Netherlands is splitting them, at least at the start of this season. But real quickly, Joey, why don't you give us the rundown on what this race entails?
Yeah, it's round 2 of the season of 12 weeks long out here. 25 laps around Chicago Street Circuit is what we are going to be doing. An open setup as always, a no spare car. So I talked about if you pick up any damage kind of running into a wall or a competitor, well, guess what? You're going to have to live with it. A drive-through penalty at 17 incident points, disqualification at 25 incident points. And we're not even going to bother with those incident points today here, because if you're picking up incident points and somehow still alive out on the racetrack, I think Barney's going to have a word with you after the race.
Yeah, there might be some shenanigans going on. There's no grass to speak of that the car is going to be touching to be considered off track. If you go off track, it's into the runoff, which penalizes you enough on its own without an incident point. 3 minutes left in qualifying, and Tixier has just taken the fastest time over Jorge Nieva. But Leo Sequeiro, now he's really, I think, picked up speed in the last few races that we've been covering this series, Joey, because he's put himself up into third now.
Yeah, right in front of Nicola Kaki. Togo Hisada down there in 5th place as well. So you're right, Leo Sequeiro just found some speed. His iRating nice and solid right now in that F1 Championship, 4,500. I think I see the top peaking out about 6,000, maybe just north of 6,000 today.
Certainly quite a spread. David Muse is yet to set a time. Didn't delete the first lap. This is his first one around. Not sure if he's going to have enough time for a second one, but it'll be close. You can lose a lap for touching the wall, and if you brush it just lightly, it'll give you a 0x, which obviously won't count as an incident point, but it will be enough to cause the lap to be removed, because they don't want anybody riding the wall around here, which I don't think you can find much of an advantage in this car, but it's for all the cars. As a 28.6, only put David up into 23rd, unfortunately.
You were talking about riding the walls, and I mean, I've watched all of the NASCAR races from here, Joe, and I think that those drivers have kind of inspected every area of the wall that they have around Chicago. I don't think it's possible to ride them in game time here.
No, definitely not. eNASCAR also had official competition here. Not just on the track in the virtual world here, but they had 4 drivers actually go and compete from the track with special rig setup. That was a really cool event that they put on to show fans kind of what these drivers do and what they're about. Jourdain down in 22nd. Another driver struggling a little bit here in the qualifying, cutting it around through turn 7 and now past the statue here. Let's see whether or not he can get a nice run through definitely one of the narrower and more tricky parts.
I think this whole circuit is narrow, but you're right, through this kind of final sector, it is very tight through that, call it 11 section, and then you come down here to turn number 12, which is the final turn. There's a little bit of elevation through that sector 3 as well, but Jonathan Jourdain seems like he's going to improve his lap time. A 126.3 will jump him up into 20th.
We got David Muse flying down and finishing up, and he improves to a 28.3, so 23rd at best for him today. About 20 seconds left. Ackerman just completed another lap at 25.8, only takes him to 16th, and I think that is it. I don't see anybody else who can complete a lap from here, as Dave's cycle is, I think, the last one out there still running. So a few drivers, not many surprises amongst them, that failed to set a time. About 4 drivers that weren't able to put one on the board. We'll get to them in a second, but in the meantime, let's go over the rest of our grid for round 2 of this season. And up at the top, Seb Tixier starts from the pole with Jorge Nieva in second position. Leo Sequeira, as we said, great qualifying in third. Nicola Kaki will be starting next to him in fourth spot. Togo Hisata starts P5, followed by Steve Morris in sixth and Kevin Verbruggen in the seventh spot. Gary Ho, an excellent job in the top 10, starting from eighth. Ove Trangrade behind him in ninth, and Marco Salgado rounds out your top 10.
Gary Quellen in 11th with Roberto Pengrazi next to him in 12th. Matthew Maudsley in 13th with Juan Rodriguez in 14th. Jan Steffen in 15th. Bjorn Ackerman 16th. Sandy Banerjee 17th. Connor Tolman 18th. And then Cam Porter starting 19th with Jonathan Jordan outside of him in 20th.
Mats Linden starts 21st, followed by Dave Seikel in 22nd. David Muse, as we mentioned, was P23. And then it's David Anderson, 24th, and Tim Porter in 25th. Last two to set times. Jason Clapper and Kurt Clapper will follow. They traditionally don't qualify. Juan Suarez will start 28th. And Tobias Harnvey, we saw some pictures of him during qualifying. He seems to have had an accident, so he failed to put a lap down due to a mistake before he could get to it. Drivers now lining up, and it is relatively warm on the track at about 94 Fahrenheit. Last thing you want is the cars slipping around on a track like this, Joey.
100%. I actually want to draw it back to last week, that standing start that we had at Road America. It was a mess. Remember, we had one car off in the grass in the launch phase and then several accidents before we even got to turn 5, turn 6 area. So can't wait to see what these tall concrete walls are going to provide for us here on the opening lap.
All right. We wait patiently because it looks like everybody is out there. We start to get the engines revving as the lights come up for our second round of the season. And the green flag is out, accelerating way off the line. Let's see if everybody's safe this time, especially coming through the first corner, where things get a little bit tight and drivers pinch down. You can see a little bit of a lockup from one of the cars. Drivers backing up to try and avoid an accident, but so far it seems like everybody's through.
I think that Togo Hisata got great power down on that initial launch phase, and now one of them backed into the tire wall. That's the number 16 car. I believe that's Juan Rodriguez. He's going to get going again. Looks like he actually has damage on the back end of it, but the top four, Tixier, Nieva, Sequeiro, and Hisata trying to break it away.
Difficult curved braking zone here into the kink of 4 and 5, but as they exit out, Tixier leads Nieva, not by much, side-by-side battle coming into turn 6 between Sequeiro and Hisata. Hisata is going to sneak through, move himself up into third. This is a pretty quick climb for a track like this. Usually, even on the first lap, you don't see a lot of positions gained.
It was pretty well-mannered from Sequeiro. I gotta say that Togo Hisata, I think he realizes that these front two, look, they're already trying to gap it out over the number 2 car. So Togo already has 1.2 seconds to try to make up just in the first half a lap. He needed to get by that number 6 car, and he did it.
First lap being finished up now on the main straight, and Nieva's going to cut back across on Tixier and take the lead away. That was a smooth move. Was not expecting something like that. A fight back from Tixier down into the first corner. Will go side by side, and then it switches back around to the right-hand side in favor of Jorge again, but getting the throttle down. Look at Seb. He almost makes the pass, but then coming back at him, Jorge Nieva almost sees a 3 wide behind him. Togo Hisata watches.
Togo's just in the catbird seat. The track arcs around to the right here. Does Seb pull another over-under? He's going to look to the inside, but Nieva closes the door promptly. Watch that third car line, Togo Hisata. This is the corner that he made the move on Leo Sequeiro on the opening lap. He's going to fade over towards the natural driving side while Seb Tixier goes defensive. Can Togo take it around the outside without banging on any walls? Looks like he's going to, but now the gearing back in favor of Seb.
Once again, it looks like that car is very good off the corner. Seb Tixier, despite the outside, pulls away from Togo Hisata back into second. But this has helped Nieva. Look at the gap that he's starting to pull. So we got a replay from early on in the race. This is Rodriguez and what happened to him. The car's very much scattered about, but somebody punts into the back of him and he almost bounces right back into the line.
Unfortunately, I think that was the 14 of Bjorn Ackerman out there. Definitely one of our faster drivers. And unfortunately, Dave Seikel in the 21 has a problem here right in front of Jonathan Jordan, it looks like.
Yeah, think he and Jourdain may have had a coming together, and that sent them backwards. We've lost Cycle, Rodriguez, Porter, Kurt Clapper, all in pit lane from accidents early in this race. Checking in on Kevin Verbruggen ahead of Cocky, who has not had a good start to this thing. 3 positions down from his grid spot, and he's stuck in the middle of a train. Look at this all around him.
Verbruggen did a nice job to make that move on the number 3, and I just want to point out something about Nicola Cocky. Sometimes he's got tracks that he doesn't agree with as we get this replay of Jourdain and the 21 car. Just not enough room for too wide through that narrow section here. But back to my point about Nicola, he's always got a great attitude, but sometimes his driving style doesn't always agree with the track surface or the track layout. I think that Chicago here, it might be one of these tracks that he's still kind of coming to grips with.
Well, play the bagpipes for Dave Cycle, it seems, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to get back into the race. Looking at Togo Hisada now, sitting in the 5th position, getting close to Steve Maurice, who has snuck by him when we weren't looking. In fact, Leo also got past him, so something must have happened here.
That's what I'm going back to take a look at, because remember, Togo was right on the back of our lead battle, and now he's back in 5th place. He's going to make the move up into 4th around the 12 of Steve Morris. So I'm going to go back and try to take a look at it, see exactly what happened, but that's a huge shift up front.
Yeah, you don't usually see someone lose 2 positions like that unless something major happened. And, oh.
Yep. That was it right there, Joe. The 5 car, Seb Tixier, got in the wall. Togo Hisada lifted out of the gas to avoid, and 2 cars went around Togo. So Togo did the right thing. Seb Tixier probably has damage.
Assuredly, he has damage, because I saw that and I couldn't believe that it was a leader. I thought maybe it was a back marker to hit that hard, and he's still carrying on somehow and keeping pace too. He's not losing on Jorge Nieva as we check back in with Bjorn Ackerman. So you mentioned the 14 was in the wars before. He's fighting with Pangrazi now for the 13th position. Pangrazi defends to the inside, but this is a sharp right-hander. Tries for the cutback, but parking it at the apex, Pangrazi will deny him.
One of the strategies you can definitely employ on a street circuit is that you can pretty much park it at the apex, and as long as you get the traction, the power down, the launch off of the corner, that's what you need to do to kind of keep that car behind you. They can't go around the outside. We mentioned in a street circuit, there's not very many areas to make moves, and if you park it at the apex, it makes it difficult for that car behind.
Bjorn Ackerman's no longer with him because he spun out as we check back in front of them with Verbruggen on Steve Morris. Nicola Cocky still stuck in the midst of this train as well. Jason Clapper, for some reason now, taking a tow in the pit lane. Didn't see what caused that, though.
I don't know how Seb Tixier just put down a 122.8, the fastest lap out of anybody. I don't see a whole lot of steering damage on the front of his car, but just kind of that bounce back, right? To lose that time, to get into the wall and then be able to recover like that, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the corner of the car in this car, and you're usually not going to be able to carry on. Clapper gets a little loose, but stays off the wall initially. And then the second part on the right-hander on the penultimate corner. That's what we're expecting should have happened with Tixier. You could see that the wheel is just all out of alignment now, but for some reason he survived while Clapper did not.
My only guess, and truly this is an armchair quarterback guess over here, is that maybe Seb was going so slow that the impact didn't really register as anything that large, because that corner is probably the slowest corner on this racetrack. So, man, maybe he got away with one.
It could have just looked harder on our end as well. Sometimes netcode can do some slightly funny things with that. But Kevin Verbruggen, I think, had a little bit of a slow moment, and that allowed Cocky to get close to him. But now that they reach turns 3 and 4, he's pulled back away once again and kept himself out of reach. This is where he really needs to keep from being under attack, is coming up to turn 6. It's a popular place to try and overtake.
The shots from inside of Bjorn Ackerman's sim rig right there. Looks like he's got a nice triple setup. Always fun to have. I got a triple screen set up myself here just to under a year ago, swapped over from virtual reality. It's definitely a different feeling out there, but everybody's a little bit different in how they approach their own sim rig and their comfort factor.
Seems to be decently comfortable at this phase, the way he's putting pressure onto Matthew Maudsley, at least after his mistake earlier. Car off to the side is Roberto Pongrazi with his own error, and I think he's going to be able to get the car going, but that gives them all a position.
You see Bjorn Ackerman kind of holding up the hand right there. I think he feels like he might be getting held up from Matthew Maudsley or something he doesn't agree with right now, but either way, he's going to have to find a way around that white and red number 17.
Sadly, I think we've lost Gary Ho. Yeah, it looks like he's at a disconnect. Oh, and Pongrazi had another wide moment as we continue to watch this fight, and Ackerman is actually going to slow up Sandeep Banerjee, going to go around the outside and be able to take that 13th place away down into turn one. Now we watch from Cam Porter behind them, coming back into turn two towards the museum. Definitely, it looks like Ackerman wants that spot back, but he spins up the tires on the way out of the corner.
See if he can do anything at the end of the straightaway here. There is a draft effect, but it's more about the car and the driver being able to balance that brake pressure along these two right-hand corners. And actually see Ackerman might have tagged that inside wall just a touch there, so Cam Porter closes it in a little bit. Not quite close enough to make a move down here into the brake zone, as unfortunately Gary Ho is coming back out onto the racetrack. Definitely had a little bit of an issue earlier, but this is always one of the fun ones with his rig. Pretty intensive over there. I would love to take a seat in that thing and try it out.
Same here. I'm sure it has not done too much harm to the growth and pace that we've seen out of Gary. It's just unfortunate he won't really be able to use it today, but he's going to try and make up positions and see if he can come back from this unfortunate hiccup that he really couldn't have controlled, frankly. So, and the way that this race has been going, Joey, I kind of don't blame him. I think that we are not done seeing attrition here today.
I don't think so either. And speaking of, I think that this trio right here could cause a little bit of it, right? Because Cam Porter's applying the pressure to Sandeep Banerjee. Bjorn Ackerman was able to make his way around that number 14. So I think that Bjorn probably the fastest of this trio right here. But if he makes a mistake or gets caught up on an apex or something like that, it can definitely just bring those drivers back to him. And speaking of bringing drivers back to him, Seb Tixier has closed it back in on our leader.
This is just unbelievable. I mean, we've heard of the spin to win, but I don't know what to call this one. The slam to victory. Yeah,
Darlington. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. Yeah, the pull to Darlington on this one, if he can get by Jorge Nieva, which I don't think is going to be an easy task. We know that sometimes Jorge is more about let's just get to the finish, but I feel like the pace is picked up enough that he's not just going to roll over, and he's going to make Seb try and work for this win.
Here's where I kind of run into the dilemma between these two, though, is that I feel like if this was an hour-and-a-half race or a 2-hour race, I would be putting my money on that number one car that's leading the race right now, Nieva. He's just so consistent, and he is able to hit every single lap, it seems. Seb Tixier, on the other hand, crazy aggressive on the brakes. I actually talked to him after last week. I'm like, man, how are you so good on the brakes? And he kind of referenced, well, I've done a lot of real driving and some real driving schools and kind of take that same application into the sim world with a lot of high intensity brake pressure, especially off of the initial point of the brake zone. So he feels maybe that's where he's better than everybody else. But going back to the aggressiveness, if there's an opportunity in a brake zone, Seb Tixier will take it.
So will the one car leave the door open, I guess, becomes the question then. And he hasn't defended yet, interestingly, so he feels safe enough. Checking back in with Verbruggen, just behind Steve Maurice and getting very, very close to him. Coming into turn one, offers a chance. Can he get the throttle down enough? A little bit of wheel spin coming from Steve off of the final corner. Oh, and we got a side-by-side battle between Tixier and Nieva. Nieva rebuffs him once again. That cost a couple car lengths to Seb, but surely he can regroup from here.
As we watch this other battle, I was just going to make a comment. I think they kind of tripped over themselves. I think that Tixier in his natural deep braking was able to make a lunge on Nieva, but he didn't actually mean to as we watch Verbruggen right in the slipstream here. Does he show the nose on Steve Morris? It's so tricky arcing into that, call it turn 3, 4, 5 complex, because if you miss that brake marker, there is nothing between you and a tire wall on the outside. If you cut it too close, you're going to nail that apex curve.
That's a good point. So you got to really watch out about how much you're flirting with those barriers around here. Again, a street circuit, you can't abuse any track limits. It's basically the wall, and that's it. Togo Hisada, in the meantime, has been creeping forward because of the fighting that Seb and Jorge have done from time to time. It's down to about 2.6 seconds.
Let's see what the lap time is coming around this time, because I feel like turn 1 was definitely compromised from our front 2 here. So Nieva, 23.6, 24.0 from Seb Tixier, a 24.1 from Togo Hisada. So I think Togo himself might have had a little bit of a slip-up somewhere in that previous lap, but something I see you directly in front of our leaders, looks like we got lap traffic.
Oh, that's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons. Here's Togo Hisada's mistake, we think. Oh, he also brushes the wall, but it looks like the suspension stayed in place, so I think he'll get away with it. These guys, I mean, I keep hearing little scrapes from our cameras, so I get the sense that we're getting a lot of drivers that are testing the limits maybe a little too far.
And we missed it, but Seb Tixier tested the limit in turn number 2 this lap. Had a huge front right lockup, lost almost a second to Jorge Nieva. Thankfully was able to keep it out of the wall, but that brings Togo Hisada closer. And also it's just going to kind of compress up like an accordion here in a couple laps.
Over the train tracks, and now heading along the hotels here as Verbruggen is sandwiched in between the likes of Steve Morris and Nicola Kaki, but can't do much to try and get himself ahead of that number 12. Has just been basically stuck here for quite a few laps, and we're only halfway through this race. I mean, just about halfway through. We'll hit that mark partway through this lap. They come across the start-finish line once again, and you can see as deep as he breaks into this first corner, there's no place to go.
It's got to be a little bit of a frustrating race mentally, definitely for this driver right here, Nicola Kaki, because he did qualify quite well in the front 2 rows up in 4th place, slid down a few, and now he just kind of finds himself stuck behind these 2 cars. I'm sure that Nicola feels that he might have a little bit more pace, right? He's just right here. Uh-oh, we got problems directly in front. Is that Gary Ho as well as Togo Hisada turned around?
Oh, and trying to find a way to get it facing the right way, but hits the wall in the process. He's in an absolutely horrible spot where, I mean, we keep talking about how narrow it is here. Well, how do you get the car turned around when there's a stream of vehicles constantly coming through?
And, you know, it was Togo and Gary Ho that was next to him, but it was not Gary Ho that caused the incident. It was a different lapped car, and I can tell you that Togo Hisada was doing everything he could to work through these cars as fast as he possibly could. It's just an innocent bystander, unfortunately.
And traffic giveth and traffic taketh, and this time it taketh away pretty badly for our current reigning champion, so that'll do it for him. Let's check back in with Verbruggen a little bit farther away from Steve Morris from what we saw last lap around, so definitely won't get an opportunity this time down into turn 1. Nicola Kaki as well, about equidistant apart behind them. We got a replay, and I imagine what happened to... So here's Gary Ho.
And it's actually going to happen right in front. So Gary gets collected after this contact happens with Togo and the other lapped car. And what happened is that lapped car, where that McDonald's sign is, he just got out wide right there, tapped the wall on the outside, came back across to the right, and Togo was already too wide, broke Togo's car. Gary Ho got collected in the mess that was laying across the racetrack. It was a rather big accident for only 3 cars.
And I mean, did you see Leo practically slalom between the cars as one is rolling upside down and still managed to avoid the accident. That was impressive stuff. So here's Togo. And yeah, just kind of gets turned around. It didn't seem like he hit hard, but then in his hurry to try and get turned around, he backs up and slams into the wall. And I think that that had to have hurt the suspension.
Yeah, and I think that the left rear was already broken because I think that's really what caused the spin after the contact. So just really unfortunate for Togo Hisada and company, right? Everybody else that was involved there. When I went back and took a definite second look at it, I think that Togo was being very aggressive, which he needs to be, right? He needs to be aggressive in order to catch these front two, but just sometimes racing incidents do happen.
The nature of the beast, and Seb Tixier is going to try and fight this beast of a battle up at the front as he's re-caught Nieva, and he's back on him once again. Now behind them, that is not for position, that's Jourdain. He's a lap down, and in fact has a bit of a close moment there with the wall as he outbrakes himself into that corner. Now switching back into 7, they're going to leave him behind. Seb Tixier with not many places to go here, but I don't know if he's really being patient because we've seen some attempts from him. I think he almost can't do anything but be patient in this stage.
I want to give props to Seb Tixier's new paint. A little wide there from Nieva. This might be an opportunity, knowing how aggressive Seb is. He's going to be patient through the final turn here, see if he gets the traction coming down. I was just going to mention, I'm really digging his new paint. I always love full polish chrome type stuff, and then combine that with the rivets, kind of just the bare sheet metal look that the number 5 has as he bangs the wall again. He's going to lose a little bit more time, but I'm liking the way the car pops for sure.
I was going to say it's very a classic airplane, so that kind of doesn't surprise me that you like that. Do we finally have a pass here? Cocky to the inside of Verbruggen, and I think he's got it done. Verbruggen tries to cut back and take the position right back from him, but he doesn't have the speed, and he'll be able to cover him off into turns 3 and 4. Well done by Nicola Cocky. He waited quite some time, but when the opportunity presented himself, he was on it. Bjorn Ackerman in the meantime, and Cam Porter. Looks like I think Cam just took that one away.
Yeah, I think move Cam up into 12th place now. A really good run for Cam Porter in this red and checkerboard number 15. He's actually up 7 positions right now. You see Bjorn shaking the head. He's got a little bit of damage on the front end of the car. He's been in some extracurricular activities. I think he's just talking to himself right now. Sometimes as a driver, you get caught up in so much stuff and you start over driving the car. You just need to take that little mental reset, kind of wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, take a deep breath, and get back to it.
Yeah, in 2 corners since we picked him up, he's had sideways moments. One of them, again, brushing the wall. Is this one? Oh, it seems like it is extremely loose, whether that be from damage or how he set this thing up. It is a wild ride inside that number 14. And it's the battle of the webcams between Porter and Ackerman. They frequently will send us their feeds. We'll see who comes out ahead in this fight for 12th.
I think the only difference between the webcams, Joe, is that I don't think I've actually seen Cam Porter's sim rig. Like, we get to see Gary Ho's sim rig. We get to see Bjorn Ackerman's triple monitors every now and then. I don't know what kind of setup Cam is on.
We'll have to ask him that next time, see if he could give us a little bit of a peek if he comes in for an interview. Kevin Verbruggen is still behind Cocky after he got that top 5 away, but they're coming up on lap traffic themselves. That's going to be David Anderson just in front as Verbruggen brushes the wall himself, and I think this is going to open the doors because Anderson looks very off pace, and this is a hard place to overtake.
Number 12 just has to manage this traffic, right? Don't worry about the car getting by you behind. Just make sure that you close that door, and you see him leaving a nice gap here to this number 20, trying to time the run very patiently. An excellent job. But look at Verbruggen. Looks like 1, 2, 3 of them. They'll all get by the lapped car.
Beautifully done by the 12. Oh, back up to the top spot. We're side by side again. This time, Tixier gets a nose ahead. But again, he is on the outside. Nieva holds with him. Shorter distance coming up to the corner. It's hard to go wheel to wheel through 4 and 5. And Nieva knows it. He finally gives up the ghost. Seb Tixier, now that he's got the spot, can he hold on to it? As again, the sparks fly from the wheel, just glancing the concrete.
Let's see, Nieva shows the nose. He is making the lunge, presenting the car. Tixier leaves him about a half a car with their apex, closes the door on Jorge Nieva. So I think that Tixier is going to try to run away. Let's see if the blue and orange #1 car can keep up with the pace.
I can report after, sadly, such a great pass from Kaki, he has made a mistake and he is in pit lane, so he's out of this race, it looks like. Nieva not going to give this one up. He sticks with Seb Tixier as they get ready to hit 8 laps to go. Still some time left to recover, but not much.
When I was watching these two and the lines that they were taking, when they were flip-flopped, right, when Nieva was in front of Tixier, I really thought that Nieva was able to put the power down coming out of the corners. That's where his strength was, while Seb Tixier, all of his strength was in the front half of the corner. But now that Seb has nothing but clean air in front of him, I wonder if he can roll that apex speed a little bit more like he wants to, now that the other car is not in front of him.
So here's what happened with Nicola. Once again, turn 4, bites again. He tries to sneak in the inside, and I think that's his undoing. Too shallow. Plows into the tire barrier, and that's it.
It's a very tricky braking complex. Arcing, got to slow it down, couple it with my trigger word, the tires, the old tires out here. There's a lot going on in the driver's seat trying to balance it all.
More drivers going to get positions as Connor Tolman has a black and orange flag. He definitely is showing damage on the nose, so must have had his own incident where he's collected the wall or something or somebody else. Kevin Verbruggen, who has withstood a lot of pressure, Steve Morris is the one that has stood pressure in this fight. Had a few players in this, but it's gone from, I think at first was 5 cars down to 2, but this has been at 2 for some time between Nieva and Tixier. Nieva gets a run. He's going to look to the inside. It's going to be hard to outbrake Seb, but he's able to do it, and he takes the apex away. Seb has to give him space. He carries the speed. He'll have the inside back into turn 2. Could see a cutback from Jorge, but no, it's not there.
Seb did a really good job just putting the power down, but here comes the draft effect. I think it's a little bit too little too late. Nieva has got the car in a position. He's just going to follow in the tire tracks, make sure to hit this apex at turn #4, put the power down through this arcing turn #5 here, struggling. You see the counter steer on the corner exit, just trying to feed it as much throttle as possible. I think that Nieva is close enough, and maybe if Seb Tixier gets into a wall again, and remember, we've seen him do it a few times, it's just going to open the door for Jorge Nieva, who's right here.
This is starting to feel like a bit of a classic between these two. We've seen them fight so many times, but nothing this close for this long, especially on a circuit like this. Like you said, not really a draft track, so it's not like they're kind of being superficially held together by the slipstream. They are just dead even on pace and can't get away from one another.
I do feel that if Tixier maybe keeps it off the wall for a handful of laps, he might be able to gap it out over Jorge Nieva. He was our pole sitter, right? He was definitely the fastest car, but when it comes down to race pace and a full tank of gas, it's a little bit of a different strategy. As Verbruggen still trying to find a way around Steve Morris. I think that this is a case of oh no, there he goes, Steve Morris into the wall on the final turn. Just a little bit too much speed going in, got loose and into the wall with the left rear.
He blinked first, and he blinked at the absolute worst time. So the car keeps going. Question is, what state is it in? Looks like he does not have a meatball, so he should be able to try and limp it home from here as long as it drives straight. Bjorn Ackerman, in the meantime, fighting with Cam Porter, who stays ahead of him since we saw him make that pass. 14 right on top of him, though. Let's watch Cam Porter, see if he's going to glance in the mirrors and try to cover him off. So far, he's leaving the door open. Bjorn doesn't try and stick his nose down the inside. They're going to stay line astern.
nice and clean through turn number 1. Approach turn number 2. Make sure to hit your brake zone right here. Get the apex nice and tight, and then put the power down this long straightaway. Bjorn Ackerman is in the draft. I think if Cam Porter hits his brake marker properly, there's just nowhere to go here in this, call it 3, 4, 5 complex, but you just have to apply the pressure. Be right there in the mirror, and you might get the out acceleration phase, but Ackerman's doing everything right. He's just sitting kind of in the trunk of Cam Porter.
Fastest lap going to Jorge Nieva, definitely trying to put the pressure on. Much like we're seeing here from the 14, you can see the damage on the nose of that car from where he was involved in contact earlier. Honestly, I mean, kind of an impressive run from Bjorn. He's in the top 10. Yes, he got involved in something earlier on, but while others have dropped out, in fact, almost half the field is out at this stage, he's been able to keep racing.
And shout out to Cam that we're watching right here, because he is our biggest mover. Plus 10 on the day currently. It was actually Connor Tolman before he had to come into pit lane. And Connor is actually back out on the racetrack, albeit 1 lap down. But Cam right now, our biggest mover so far.
Right now, only 17 cars are still racing. There's a few that are looking like they're trying to take repairs to get out and salvage something from here, but they won't have much time to do much more, as we haven't really looked at Gary Quellen much in this race. He's got Marco Salgado just in front of them. Both have gained 4 positions since the start. Maybe a bit more of a survival race for them than it is just trying to make passes out here. And they're definitely a little too far apart for any overtakes right now, but sticking close together.
If maybe one of them can force a mistake, or even have a little bit of that lap traffic that you see right in front of the battle, kind of mix things up a little. It can kind of be a little bit of a boring race when you're out there by yourself, but got to remember to stay focused on every single corner, every single apex. And speaking of a boring race, Joe, I want to give props to this driver, because he hasn't seen much action, but he's sitting here in a podium position with 3.5 laps to go.
To be fair, it's kind of started action-packed for him. He was in some fierce battles those first couple laps, but yeah, after that, it was kind of running his own race. Had to dodge the big wreck between Togo Hisada and the back markers. Managed to sneak through. Cam Porter, in the meantime, has now been overtaken. Ackerman finally got the job done.
I wonder if Cam made a slip-up out of the final turn, or maybe just had a little bit too much pressure. I think, yeah, it was actually the final turn that he almost got that apex wall. So definitely gave Bjorn Ackerman the run down the straightaway. As we check back in on another battle back here. Actually, this is Tobias Harnvey, and no, this is Dave Anderson back here in 15th place.
Yeah, being chased by Dave Muse, who was started 23rd, up 7. David Anderson started 24th, up 9. So done slightly better, but a battle for some of the lower positions of those who are finishing, but definitely solidly into the mid-pack, almost exactly halfway up the fields, these two. Also worth noting that for a while, Nieva had fallen off of Tixier by almost a second and a half, but he's cutting back into it. So we check back in with them. So trying to pick the pace back up now, and Seb Tixier will try and respond.
This lap specifically, Seb is, call it a 2/10, maybe 3/10 off pace, while Jorge Nieva is actually looking right on pace for his fastest lap. Now, we're arguing over a 10th, maybe 2/10 of a second. Looks like Marco Salgado in the number 9 car just had an issue, and he was running inside the top 10, so it's going to drop him way down the order, move everybody else up.
Yeah, real shame. As he was having such a good race, Gary Quellen had to take avoiding action to keep from running into him. Didn't lose a position, stays in 6th. In fact, I think we're going to get a replay of it right here. And yeah, just car starts to slide, and unfortunately for Quellen in the 11, there's little he can do except slam on the brakes. He does make some slight contact. That's Jourdain, a lapped car. So the good news is he didn't lose his spot, but lost a little time up to Steve Morris.
And turn number 2, I should say, is a tricky corner where there's a lot of speed, a lot of rolling speed into it, so it kind of is deceiving on the way in. You think you can really roll a lot more than what you can through there, but in reality, turn number 2 is all about the launch coming off of the corner, going down the straightaway. So I think it looks different than how you actually have to drive it.
And a testament to the sense of sportsmanship this community has. Marco just got onto the text chat and said, sorry, Gary couldn't save it. So he even felt guilty. He didn't take him out. He just held him up for a little bit and felt bad enough that he caused him a little bit of a contact. So some of these guys really do want to ensure a good race and don't like causing someone else to have a bad day.
We're going to try to add maybe a little bit of drama here because Seb Tixier has just taken off here on this lap. However, he does not hold the fastest lap. There is that bonus point available. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Joe, but currently Jorge Nieva has the fastest lap at a 22.6. And as I say that, you see what just popped up on the board? Seb Tixier, 22.63.
This series does not have the bonus for fastest lap. I think you're thinking of the 79s.
Of course.
But, yeah.
Yes.
But it is a point of pride for some of these drivers. And I mean, honestly, this is another car that can get quicker as the fuel burns off, although it can be a little tougher than it is in the 79s. And if you want that fastest lap just to say that you had it, because they keep track of those stats too on the Lotus 49 page, it has all those numbers collected, then that is a little feather in your cap. So Seb holds it in his hands, and by about, it's 0.03 of a second difference between himself and Jorge on that fastest lap.
I think the only other edge to that sword, though, is that if you're going to try for the fastest lap, which Seb is doing right now, he's tracking 1/10 better than his previous lap. You're pushing it to 11/10. How close are you cutting it to these walls?
And it's on the final lap, too. Don't want to throw it away now. He'll come around the final corner. He had to fight for this one. He started from pole. He didn't stay there, but he's going to finish there as Seb Tixier is your victor at the Chicago Street Circuit.
Nieva does cross the line in second place there. Got about a 13-second gap before Leo Sequeiro crosses the line, but he will finish on the podium in his white and red number 6.
Nice run by Leo. He actually started in that third spot, we have to remember. He kind of fell backwards a bit and made up for it, surviving where others didn't. And Kevin Verbruggen going to finish in fourth. Actually, first driver to finish that has gained positions. He's up 3. But I tell you what, Cam Porter is getting ready to be on a gain of 10, finishing 9th.
Watch the rest of these cars come across the start-finish line here. Bjorn Ackerman, definitely one of them that we covered quite a bit today. And he's going to finish with a solid top 10 result, currently sitting in 8th as he's got one turn left. Now he sees Barney with the checkered flag, and yes, that number 14 with a nice finish.
Only about 15 or 16 cars are actually going to reach the checkered flag today. It was a bit of a bloodbath out there, which we honestly expected. And I guess that'll give us a chance to go through our results for this one, as they have given the points out now. And Seb Tixier has managed to take maximum points to try and fight for another title, as Jorge Nieva finishes P2 to get his first title. He's at least going to collect valuable points on that one. Leo Sequeiro was P3, and then Kevin Verbruggen just outside the podium. Steve Morris, a little bit of a mistake late on, cost him what could have been a better finish. He'll get a top 5 at least. Gary Quellen was P6, and Matthew Maudsley up to 7th. Bjorn Ackerman somehow finishing P8 today over Cam Porter, P9, and Sandeep Banerjee rounds out your top 10. Last one on the lead lap.
Yeah, you're right. Across the page is one lap down, starting with 11th and Jan Steffen. Connor Tolman finishing in 12th place. Jonathan Jordan here in 13th. David Anderson 14th. David Muse 15th. And then comes cars that were more than one lap down. Marcos Salgado back here, unfortunately, did not finish today's race. 2 laps down. Mats Linden, Nicola Kaki, Juan Suarez, Ove Trengrid. We didn't even mention that Ove was in today's race. That's how buried he was back there. And then across the next page, drivers that had even more problems. The one that stands out right there, Joe, Togo Hisada, 22nd.
Yeah, it's all DNFs from here. So anybody that you see that's out of place, they had a pretty bad day. But Seb Tixier did not. Our winner, ready to chat with us after victory, and a very hard-fought victory, we have to say. Seb, Jorge kept you honest. Eventually, you were able to retake it and pull away. What do you think cost you the pace in the middle of the race that he was able to catch and fight you for it?
Yeah, at the beginning I made some mistakes. I think Joey will find funny. I brake too much and I locked the front a few times. I think to a lap 2 or 3 I hit the wall at the second to last corner and make Togo into trouble, so sorry for that, Togo. And then I did another mistake, and then Jorge was in front. I felt like I had more pace, but every time I was trying to brake out behind him, a few times I had to do evasive action. Looks like a dive, but it was just to avoid him, to punt him, because I was braking later. And so then I think at some point I let a little bit of time to cool down the front tires, and then I attacked. And yeah, I don't even remember where I passed him. Yeah, it was turn 1. Managed to go side by side and then just be brave. And it was very good race, good battle with Jorge. I was shaking, so it was very, very good.
Yeah, it looked pretty intense out there. It's funny that you didn't intend to try and pass, because Joey called that. He thought that was the situation. We just saw one of your incidents there, I think. How in the world did you get away with that? Like, was the car damaged at all? We saw the hit, and we thought for sure that you wouldn't, that at least there would be some damage or hurt, that your pace would be gone.
I think I got lucky because I touched both front left tire at the same time, so I guess the damage, the force was. I'm a bit of a physics guy. That's actually my job. I'm doing video games and doing physics simulation. So when you hit more stuff at the same time, the force is you say that in English, like balanced in several points. So on each point the force will be smaller, so less damage, I guess. So I was a bit lucky on that. And I touched the wall a few times, but I managed to get out of the wall a lot of time. Maybe also with the netcode and the team from Singapore, it looked worse than actually it was for me locally.
Well, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, I suppose. So you've come back, you've taken a win. Valentes wasn't here. If he returns, is he going to be a bit of a difficulty in the remaining rounds?
Well, if I remember, at Road America, if I was not doing mistakes, I was actually catching up with him a little bit. So I think that's the difference between the 8K driver and the 5K driver is the 5K driver did a lot more mistakes. So yeah, I have to go up there to manage to try to beat him. But for sure, it's going to be super hard.
Well, again, congratulations. You fought super hard and you took the win today.
Thank you.
Seb Tixier, our victor, who finished ahead of Jorge Nieva. I believe Joey has caught up with P2.
Yeah, Mr. Nieva, congratulations on a P2 finish here today at Chicago. Uh-oh, do we have you, Jorge? Looks like might not have you on the microphone right now. Maybe give just a second. Oh, no? Yeah, now we got you loud and clear, buddy. Congrats on the second place.
Thank you, Joey.
It was pressure-filled for you, wasn't it? Because you had Seb in your mirror for the majority of the race, and he was pretty aggressive in those brake zones, wasn't he?
He was much faster than me. I assumed he wanted to pass, but I thought it was impossible here, but he proved me wrong.
Now, did you see him bang the wall behind you early on in the race?
Sometimes I saw him with the wall, but I don't know how much is real and how much is just the netcode predicting him going into the wall. So I don't know if I saw or not. I saw it many times.
I understand that. We were actually talking about that as well. But yes, Seb did bang the wall pretty hard. He got lucky, though, because it didn't damage his car. Other than the brake zones, where did you feel that he was faster than you? Because you made the comment that he was definitely faster. He was the pole sitter. Where did you need to maybe pick up that time?
I think I was very slow in the corner that goes into the long straight, and then in the final part of the track, I was really, really slow there. But well, it was enough for a podium, so I'm happy with that.
Well, I just got to say thank you for coming out and racing with us every week. You're quote unquote the nicest guy in sim racing. You proved it last week with the finish at Road America. You always keep it clean out here. So thank you for coming out and being part of the community and racing every week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
That was Jorge Nieva finishing in second place today.
Looks like we've got fourth place ready to talk to us, Kevin Verbruggen. And love to get his thoughts because it was a bit of a different race compared to what Seb and Jorge had. Kevin, you were in the thick of a train for pretty much that entire time, or at times up at the front of it. What was it like trying to battle so close in such narrow confines at a track like this?
Oh yeah, that is very tense. Every single mistake could just mean that you end up straight up in a wall. It doesn't help that there are all the 90-degree corners with just a wall directly after them. So if you mess up, there's not even like some extra tarmac to get back on track. It's just race over. As you can see, what happened to Nicola. That said, it was the race itself was still quite fun. Steve did very well to end up ahead of me in quali. We had about similar pace all week, and all props to him for keeping us behind for so long. But but to be fair, this track I wouldn't be very sad if we never came back here.
I know for some it's not their first choice, but despite missing the podium, I don't know if this is any consolation. You were the first driver in the field to actually gain positions. All the three in front of you finished where they started.
That is good news. Like I said, I did profit a bit from accidents ahead. Though I did overtake Steve on track, but I think I'm finally starting to get a bit more aggressive in the races, because I noticed that was a bit of a weak point for me last season, that if I'm behind someone, it took a very long time to overtake someone. Still here, of course, it's a very difficult track to overtake, but I'm finally getting a bit more confident, and I think you can see that in the wheel-to-wheel racing.
Well, here's the good news. If you're like me and really love the Nürburgring, that's the one up next. Do you consider that one of your stronger tracks?
I don't know yet. Last season I was very fast there, but then I found a Gary across the track. So we'll see what happens. I hope I can get the same pace as last time, and this time then make it to the end. But very excited.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to it. And again, congratulations on a top 5 today.
Thank you.
Kevin Verbruggen finishing P4, which is going to wrap us up with a big thank you to the Lotus 49 community as a whole for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And also thanks to the team today, Daniel, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Like we said, we're headed off to the Nürburgring at the Nordschleife next time, Saturday, September 28th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here, because up next, the IMSA Vintage Series is going to Laguna Seca. That'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.